of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So welcome to our May 10th, 2022 Tiverton School Committee meeting. Is anyone signed up for open forum? So I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion. Second.
I'll ask for a roll call vote. Mrs. Palish?
Yes.
Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
I vote yes. So we're moving to item number 5. I'm actually going to ask for a motion to move up item number 5F, referral of policy number 739 back to the policy subcommittee.
Thank you, Dr. Larkin. I will make that motion.
I'll second that.
Ask for a roll call vote. Mrs. Palish?
Yes.
Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
Mr. Pavo, or Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So Mrs. Palish.
So I asked to have this moved up because we had quite a lengthy discussion at our last meeting about the policy that we just passed, which was 739, and compliance or lack of compliance with it. And I will say that this agenda is much, 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 much better. The memos from Dr. Sanchione are very thorough, and we know what the item is. I know there were a couple of agenda requests that were filled out. I know you and I filled them out online. They didn't get printed, but, you know, a little bit of technology there, and we'll get there. But I did want to bring this up because we're still not following policy. So what I'd like to do is take that policy back to the subcommittee and tweak it to something that everybody will be comfortable with. So right now it says everyone has to fill out an agenda request. So would everyone be comfortable with what we see tonight, which is obviously official memos from the superintendent, and then Mr. Dakotas gave us a very detailed email. Would people be okay with that? And then we can add it to the policy. One of the things the policy does say is that backup, no agenda requests after Wednesday. Is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, yeah?
For everything. For
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
So actually, before we go any further, do
So-
you want to make that as a motion?
What,
The
as
referral
a
back.
motion?
Referral back to
Yes,
policy.
I'm going to make a motion that we refer policy 739 back to the school, policy subcommittee.
And
Okay.
I will second that.
Okay, so anyway, Mrs. Palish, you have the floor.
So really, I'm looking for feedback from the superintendent, from all of you, from, to how we want to approach this policy in a way that achieves what we want, which is transparency. We want to know what the public business is. We want the public to know what the business is. But I don't want to make it so, pejorative that everybody has to fill out an agenda request if people just feel that's really not what they want. I mean, now that's what the policy says, and that's what we passed, but I think the policy subcommittee, I think Diane and I are willing to tweak it as long as other methods get us to a point where everybody knows what's on the agenda. We have a cutoff for stuff that goes on the agenda. We have a cutoff, we just have things that make sense for us, because up until this point, we've been struggling with the agenda, and we're just trying to get to a point where it's fair, it's consistent, and it's transparent. So if you guys have any thoughts, as it comes back to us, be the time to let us know, because we had 2 readings on that last policy. No one said anything, and then we promptly ignored it. So Dr. Sanchione, are you comfortable with just giving us a memo? Is that something that?
Yeah, I think the intent of the policy was ideal, and I think you had a goal in mind to be informed about what's on the agenda. I think the impact maybe on administration wasn't what your intent was.
Right.
And so clearly the message has been delivered. You need backup, and we're going to provide it. I'm going to guarantee you that. So I think we can work together to get it to exactly what everyone's needs but more importantly, that the school committee has the information they need prior to the meeting.
Right, but are you, like, what you gave us, I know, for instance, tonight, I have no problem with,
Right.
with what you gave us, as far as, here's a memo, here's what
And
it,
that's what we want to do.
Okay, all right, because we don't want to make it so burdensome that people aren't going to do it.
Right, and
But it's, but at the same time, it's like, we do want to make sure that, and what, how does the committee feel about, like, a detailed email? I had no problem with Mr. Dakotas's detailed email.
So it's going to actually let each member
Okay,
kind of
that's
have the
perfect.
floor.
Yeah.
If you're okay, you're
Yep.
done? Deb?
Yep.
Mrs. Pavo?
Excuse me, I don't have a problem with a detailed email as long as it comes to us, not on the day that we're having a meeting, but that would, again, be following the policy.
So you
Has to
like
be
the
in by
Wednesday deadline?
Whatever
Yeah,
the
okay.
policy would state. Just as long as we have backup, so that we know what we're talking about, or what someone else is going to be talking about.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Mr. Dakotas?
Yes, so I have the online form for the agenda submission on my laptop, so that's easy for me just to refer back to it. I'm not as picky. I agree with Ms. Pavo. I'm good with, just by Friday, it's good with me, if I have the information before the weekend. But if Wednesday is what we did, and that's what we voted on, that's fine too. I think sometimes things come up later in the week and
I think the reason for Wednesday is it gives Dr. Sanquioni and Dr. Larkin and Carolyn a chance to put the agenda together
By
and
Friday.
copy everything. And if we're Friday, you don't have a chance to do that then. That's why it was Wednesday. I mean, we could maybe try Thursday, but that's why the Wednesday date, because it gives the people that are putting the agenda together enough time to get us our packet by, and the public, because remember, the public can access the packet the same time we can. It gives enough time for them to get that packet together by Friday so that it's available for everyone
Sure.
before the weekend.
And I'm also fine with any emails, because that's easy for me. I think most of us can just read an email, print it out if we need, and go from there.
But we can, I mean, would people have, I mean, I guess Jerry and Dr. Larkin and, is Thursday too late? Is the Wednesday date better? As far as putting a
Just
agenda
for
together?
clarification, it's Wednesday close of business is the current
Yeah,
deadline.
Yep.
So that really means, for all intents and purposes, it would be available to the administration to view and start putting together beginning on Thursday,
Right.
which is only a day.
And I think that's why, that just seems like it's not enough time if you say Thursday end of day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mrs. Pavo, back to you.
Dr. Sanquioni, how much of the agenda is now sent to the state? I know there was a time, whatever was in the packet, the backup, whatever was in the packet, except confidential information, was sent out, so that people who go onto that website to look at the agenda, to see what's on it, if there's anything of interest to them, they have that opportunity, and then they have some sort of backup. Is that still done, or has that changed? Just the agenda, okay. All right, no, that's okay, I was just wondering how that worked. All right, thank you.
But if the public wants the entire packet, they can request it.
They can,
Yeah.
and it's on our website.
Oh, so we'll post that by Friday as well?
Yeah, so
Okay,
that's good.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
So that's another reason to kind of stick with the Wednesday deadline. Yep.
Well, and everything, no matter when it's posted or where it's posted, everything is actually a public document, and so
Yep.
people have the right to request that to the
And
superintendent.
if something comes up that is an emergency, we have the ability to add it as an emergency item.
Mrs. Farnworth?
As we developed this policy, the form to me was just to make it easier for people to put in their requests and to state what it was they were asking for us to do business on. Now, if getting memos, it keeps within the spirit of that ask, that's a perfect substitute in my mind, and we can certainly work that into the policy. It's the times that, there have been times, truthfully, that I've read the agenda, there has been no backup, the descriptions really didn't speak to what I thought they would speak to, and that was really the genesis of all of this. So if everyone, wants to have a little bit more flexibility, I am totally fine with that. I would want to keep the Wednesday at close of business, or I think we put 5 PM, whatever. I think that still should stand unless there is a truly urgent item that must be acted upon that is received after that. And then anything else can wait till the next meeting. There are very few, in my opinion, urgent items that need to be added after that Wednesday deadline.
Okay. Mr. Farley, as one of the few people who filled out the form for the last meeting, what we're discussing is referral back of policy number 739 to the policy subcommittee to kind of revise it to make it a little bit more, to comport a little bit more with what the needs of the committee are. Any thoughts?
I mean, I think as long as it's easy for the public to understand what's on the agenda, and it's easy for whomever needs to get on the agenda to get on the agenda, whatever steps need to be taken to get there should be taken.
Okay. Yeah, my own thoughts is that the policy is clear and good as it's written, but it probably needs to, we should send it back to tweak it and see if it squeals. There's a lot of, did you like that?
See
Thank
if
you.
it squeals, that's annoying.
So I think there are some things to be considered about, should the form be filled out? One of my goals in actually having this referred to the policies subcommittee originally was to have a process whereby if the superintendent did not feel something was appropriate for the agenda, or I did not feel something was appropriate for the agenda, that actually people had a way of kind of overriding or appealing that to the committee as a whole. So I think there's things about, sort of when are submissions timely? I think there's a difference between asking for somebody who is not on the committee to submit. That probably should be a little bit sooner. I think that committee members or the administration should still have an opportunity to submit things a little bit later in the week. But I think that's what we need to work out in this referral. So any questions from our administrators on Zoom? Any comments from any of the public present? Mr. Wood, you want to come up and no? I was hoping you would. Get it? So I'm going to ask for a vote. Mrs. Balish?
Yes.
Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
And we'll bring
So-
it back as soon as we have something.
Yeah. Okay, great. Next is item 5A, accept donation of discus hammer pad. If someone wants to, Dr. Sankiran, I'll let you go first.
Great, thank you, Dr. Lock, members of the school committee. So in your packet, I provided you with a memo outlining the plans and the desire of the school department to install a discus hammer throwing area on the lower field at Ranger. Thank you for those who came today to see how that would be laid out and why the space is important to us. I just want to highlight some of the key parts that were in my memo. I think the most important one is that this is being recommended to you by the elementary school principal, the high school principal, your athletic director, and your superintendent. 4 people who spent a lot of time analyzing the entire campus to get the best position, safest place for our male and our female throwers to have a good practice facility, but also have the ability to throw there during meets. Generously, the pad would be installed by Mr. Peter Sherman, who's a former thrower at URI, who knows a lot about this. I know I sent you a video of one of our students throwing over at Portsmouth, so you got a sense of what this looks like and what happens when the hammer and or disc hits the field. I know one of the major concerns was the divot that it would leave. I've outlined for you a 2-prong approach to overcome that. The first being our coach and our athletes would be responsible to fix that. We would provide them the tools to do so. And then secondly, our maintenance person, first task every morning, go out there and make sure that we didn't miss any holes. So in fact, when the students from Ranger were going to use that field, it would be absolutely totally safe. I outlined in the memo for you that, it's not a long season. Track basically starts by the time they get out the throw. It's probably mid-April. Season ends near the end of May. They don't practice every day, so it's not a lot of time on that field. Certainly then, when the season's over, it has the opportunity to regenerate and become a good field again for use when the fall comes around, when our schools are over there again. It's been brought up that, okay, you're asking to use this as a discus hammer throwing field, and now this is going to turn into total high school use. Well, I've been here 4 years, and I've never seen any request to use that field other than this one. Many of you have been here a lot longer. There's never been a request to use that field. This field simply serves a purpose in its own entity for that sport for those kids. We're not going to use that field for anything else. I don't see any plans. For those of you who came today, you saw where the field throwing area was before. It was very unsafe. We'd have to stop softball games, softball practices. This gives our students an ideal place to throw in the safest possible area. I can see in the crowd here today, I know we got a couple of our coaches and some of our student athletes here. The last point I want to make is that although we've been asked to assess other areas, which we have done, and if you were there today or if you have seen it, that vector is large. You can see that there's just no other place to put it. It has to be on the high school campus. Because many of these athletes don't just throw the hammer or the disc. They're runners, they're jumpers, they do other events. So when a meet's taking place, they may be throwing the hammer, but all of a sudden it's first call 400. They might have to then pay attention, get over to do that event, go back, finish the hammer, and so forth. So a track meet, has to be orchestrated in a very succinct way. I'm sure our coaches do an amazing job with that, but we want to give our athletes a great place to practice and a great opportunity to participate in a meet where they can truly be part of the entire facility. So with that being said, as background information, I'll turn it to the committee or whoever else.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion from any member of the committee who cares to
Dr.
make one.
Larkin, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the donation of the discus hammer pad and that we agree to the location of the discus hammer pad on the lower part of the Rangers School field.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I'll open it up to discussion on the part of the committee. Mrs. Palish?
Thank you, Dr. Sanquioni, for the tour, because it does help to see, where it is, where it's located, the back corner. We did talk that we spent some time at the high school field where they do the shot put, and it does create divots, but to your point, and especially since the safety concern has been brought up, I think you've mitigated those concerns. Hopefully the individuals that brought up those concerns at Ranger, they will come back to you if it's not mitigating it. But I do thank you for the tour because it was very helpful to actually see what we were proposing.
And I can assure you that Principal Cabral will be on this. If there's any holes in that field, he'll let me know and we'll take care of it. I don't see it happening.
That
Yes,
good?
thank you.
Mrs. Pavo?
I have nothing, thank you.
Mr. Dakotas?
I have nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Farnworth?
I do want to take a moment to express sincere gratitude to Peter Sherman and his whole family for everything that they have done and continue to do for our schools. This is a very generous donation, and I know he's actually acting as coach as well, and I actually got to meet Mr. Sherman for the first time last week. I actually asked for a private tour. And he and his wife were very gracious to take me down there, and I understand, he actually walked the paces for me and explained how the whole thing worked and laughed when I didn't know any of the lingo associated with track and field. What can I say? But I do want, to make sure that we all express the gratitude that they so richly deserve for bringing this forward, and, I do fully support the placement of it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I also am very grateful for the Shermans for their donation. I appreciate the support they've given the school and the team. Dr. Sanquioni, how much is the total cost of the pad, and do we have any sense of that yet?
I don't, because it was a donation, so I didn't actually ask for Pete's time and cost. I can get that for you if you'd like.
Oh, so part of it is in labor and part of it is in...
The actual concrete that he's going to pour.
Okay. All right, so we don't really know, but they're,
Can we maybe amend the motion to make to make it, I mean, we have to cover the costs, so I'm not sure if we can tweak the donation, the amendment to make, or the motion?
There's no cost to
Is
us.
there any cost to us?
He's putting in the.
they're
pad.
undertaking to do it, the
Yes.
entire
The
project.
entire project.
So maybe that's that's it, is the
That's the
donation
donation.
of the entire cost of the project. Maybe
Yes.
that's the amended motion?
I mean, we usually have a dollar value to sort
Yeah,
of,
it's hard to.
for their
say
tangible
how much the
objects like
concrete
a,
costs and how many hours he's putting
I
in.
mean, that
and
way
that's-
it's specific. I don't know, it's your motion, Ms. Farnworth, but I
There's no
think
cost to the
then it's
district, I guess I wanna make sure
correct.
you're aware.
However you want to word it, either the total cost of the project or with no donation, with gratitude, with no cost to the district, however you want to word it. I just think our motions sometimes aren't as specific as maybe they.
So, Dr. Larkin, may I amend my motion?
yes.
Okay, I would like to amend my motion to say that the motion would be that we accept the donation, which is the full cost of the discus hammer pad to be located on the lower field of Ranger School.
Okay, that needs a second, and then we need to vote.
Second that motion.
So the motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion, Mr. Dakotas? This is on the amendment to the motion.
No.
Mrs. Pavo?
No.
Mrs. Farnworth?
No.
Mrs. Palish?
No.
I have no comments on the amendment to the motion. I'm going to take a vote. Mrs. Palish?
Yes.
Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So the motion now stands as amended to accept the donation of the hammer pad and discus throwing area on the part of the Shermans at no cost to the district. So and again, I remain grateful for the Shermans for doing this, and we always want to support the aspirations of all our students, whether that be academically or artistically or athletically. I remain concerned about the safety and just the use of the open space allotted to the elementary school when I think we can still work to find other solutions. So, Mr. Farley, any comments?
Yes, actually, I spent the last week or so collecting information. I've spoken with someone from the Ranger PTO. I've spoken with members of the team about this, and I think this is a sort of telltale example of just a bit of a miscommunication. I think the main objectors to this field is the Ranger PTO, and rightfully so. They have something to be concerned about. But I do think that the track and field, and I think the students agree, needs to be near the high school campus, and Ranger is really the only plausible place for that. However, I do think that there should be some communication efforts made to explain properly to the Ranger PTO exactly, in depth, the statistics, exactly how much concrete, how much time, get as much detail as possible, just so there isn't any misunderstandings about, going back to sort of talking with the PTO, they weren't exactly sure where this field was going to be. And obviously I told them where it was going to be. But the fact that they weren't exactly sure was a little disconcerting in my opinion. And I think before work is to be started, there should be some meeting with the Ranger PTO to tell them exactly what's going on and how it's going to be done. I believe that's all.
Okay.
I have a comment. I'm confident that Mr. Cabral, capable principal that he is, will make sure that now that he understands that they need some information, that he will make sure that information makes its way to them.
Well,
Go ahead.
if I may, yes, of course, and I'm sure Mr. Cabral would do that, but I think it's partly the job of the committee to take the,
We take comment at our meetings. I didn't see anyone from the PTO here at our meetings. I didn't get an email from anyone at our meeting. I didn't get an email personally. I mean, you have to communicate with the full school committee, either at our meetings or via email.
well, yes, last meeting, there
Yeah,
was.
there was
Well, yeah, the
communication.
two individuals that were here.
Yeah,
Yes.
one of them
Sure.
was from the PTO.
Yep.
One of them-
Oh, I thought you had additional beyond that.
No, no, not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
My
Yep.
main point is that there was some
Certainly.
misunderstanding, and I think, well, yes, I'm sure Mr. Cabral would take those steps.
I see you, Manny. Just, we're going on. Go ahead.
I thought he was waving at us.
No, he's getting agitated, I think.
Uh-oh. I think that there needs to be more than just the ranger principal. There needs to be the private donator. There needs to be the superintendent there to tell them, because I know that, again, they seem to be quite taken aback by the lack of information they received.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
We have a motion on the floor.
We do, but I think we still have some comment. Mr. Cabral? You need to unmute or be unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Speak forth.
Okay, so the first thing I want to clarify is the Ranger PTO has never addressed this. We have not had a meeting with the Ranger PTO.
Manny, you're
We meet
not
every
coming
week-
through yet.
Excuse me, every month. We have not addressed the
have his
discus
cell phone.
pad whatsoever. I did have a meeting in my office with Mr. Deldeo and a
any-
member of the Ranger PTO.
Does anyone know sign language in the room?
Manny, just wait.
Okay, can you hear me? Testing.
Can you just
All right,
tell
go
us
ahead.
what he's saying?
Just relay it like an interpreter.
I can hear you, Manny.
Oh, okay. Yeah, can the committee hear me?
We can hear you in Zoom.
Okay, so the only
You can
the only
hear him
thing I
in
wanted to-
Zoom, just we can't hear him.
The only thing I wanted to address is the PTO at Ranger has never discussed this issue. There hasn't been any, anything as far as,
Manny, that's me calling you to see if we can put you on my cell phone.
all right?
Pick up the
He
phone.
doesn't have his phone here.
Manny,
he does.
he's
He just
calling you
heard.
to pick you up the phone. Jerry Hawkins calling you because he can't hear you.
Yeah. He silenced me.
Again.
Okay, here I am.
All right, Manny, I'm going to put you next to my mic and see if you can talk to us.
Okay, the only thing I wanted to clarify is the Ranger PTO has not met and discussed the issue that's at hand. I did have a meeting in my office with Mr. Deldeo and a member of the Ranger PTO, but it's never been an issue that's been brought up at a PTO meeting or discussed with the PTO. So I'm not sure where the confusion is getting, because it's never been an issue that we discussed at our monthly PTO meetings. I am sure that is aware of what happened. Mr. Deldeo is concerned about the field and the phys ed classroom.
Manny, you may want to take yourself off speaker and talk directly into your phone.
Okay, let's try that.
There you
That's
go.
better.
All right. All right. So do I need to start all over again? Or?
No, we
No,
got
this
it.
will last.
Okay. So all I'm saying is we did. I did have a meeting with Mr. Deldeo and a member of the PTO, but it's never gone to the PTO meeting. We're all working together as one system, and I know Mr. Deldeo is very concerned about the safety as far as his phys ed class, and I think that's been addressed.
Good.
Okay.
If I may, Dr. Larkin.
Let me just get through. Any other administrators want to speak? You can call my cell phone, maybe. All right, Manny. Bye, Manny. All right. that's taken care of. So I'm going to open it up to the rest of any members of the community present who would like to speak. Sure.
Hello, hi.
Hi.
My name's John Naganji. I'm the head coach for the Tiverton track and field team. And I just wanted to thank you for accepting the donation by Mr. Sherman. And if Mr. Sherman was here, I would thank him too. I just wanted to let you all know that at the very beginning of this season, I told all my athletes, and this is only some of them, that we were going to be great. We were going to be a great team. So with this pad, I promise you we are going to excel and be great in the state of Rhode Island and beyond, because we do have the New England Championships coming up in a couple weeks, and I'm hoping that we do have athletes who will make that mark and get to that pedestal. So I just wanted to thank you, and they're not going to let you down.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public present who would like to speak? Okay. So the motion on the floor is to accept the donation for the cost of the pad with no additional cost to the district to be located on Rangers Lower Field. I'm going to make a motion to amend I'm sorry. Mr. Farley, you wanted to say something else?
Yeah, thank you. So, Mr. Cabral, you can't hear me.
No, he can hear you. We can't hear you.
No, I know. I said he can't hear me. Perhaps that was the problem. And I'm just asking, I think it would be best if there was a meeting then, in that case, to inform the Ranger PTO, because at our last meeting, there was someone from the PTO here who seemed to express concern.
Something?
Yeah, Ms. Pavo.
Mr. Farley, I agree with you to a degree, because at the last meeting, I also got a sense that more of the PTO or the parents were concerned about the location of that. I didn't think it was just, I knew Mr. Del Deo was concerned about the safety of his kids. But I really, truly thought that there was more than one person or two people that were concerned about the location. That's what I got out of the last meeting also. But apparently it wasn't that way. You know, what Mr. Cabral is telling us now, it wasn't.
I've heard from more than a couple of parents, so I
Okay.
think there is other concern.
Okay.
It's
That is the way I
just
took
one
it.
member of the PTO and
Okay.
and
Thank
one
you.
faculty member.
Which is, I think, my main point. I personally, like I said, I personally think that Ranger is the best place for this. I just think that it needs to be clear to the parents and to those who are concerned that they don't need to be concerned. And I think whether it be through a PTO meeting, whether it be through some memo sent out to Ranger parents and faculty, just explaining exactly what is going on.
Dr. Larkin, I call the question.
Second.
Yep, please, point of order.
You have a motion on the floor that
Right,
circumvents all others to move the
Right,
question.
right. Okay. I'll ask for one last,
You need to take a vote immediately on the motion on the floor to call the question. Unless we're not following Robert's rules anymore
No, we're
either.
following Robert's rules, but I
Okay,
believe we
so
can-
it supersedes all other motions. You need to take a vote. If it goes down, then we can continue discussion.
Okay. I'll ask for a vote. Mrs. Palish?
Yes.
Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
Mr. Kotis?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
I believe that we have not fully investigated this issue. I'm going to vote no. So the motion passes 4-1.
That's a motion just to call the question. Now we need to vote on the original motion.
Oh, okay, okay. That's what I thought we had to do first, but, okay, so the motion to call the question passed, so we're now going to take a vote on the original motion. Mrs. Palish.
Yes.
Mrs. Farnworth.
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo.
Yes.
Mr. Dakotas.
Yes.
And again, I feel we should have had further discussion on this. I'm going to vote no.
So since the next item is Manny's, are we going to be able to hear him?
I don't know.
Testing 1, 2.
Kinda.
I think people online can hear me, but I'm not sure if the committee can.
We can kind of hear him now.
The sound system here is a
Hello, Joy.
little bit off. Just hang on.
Thanks, guys. Good luck.
Hello?
Yeah, do you want to try this
Make
again?
yourselves proud, not us.
All right,
So I muted so we don't get the background noise.
okay. You should be all set?
Yeah.
You should be all set according to Julie.
Julie.
So do you want to go back to Zoom?
Try go back to Zoom.
Okay, let's try.
Testing?
Beautiful.
Can you hear me?
Yep, it's better.
Testing 1, 2.
You should be all set, Mr. Cabral.
So I think, okay, testing 1, 2.
Now he can't hear us.
Yes, we can hear you.
You're all set.
Okay, here we go. So the item one is an outside classroom, which was sponsored by a PTO. It's part of our Color Run fundraiser that we do every year. And I provided in the packet the diagram of the outside classroom with a canvas top. If we raise enough money, we're going to put the whole classroom up, which is, right now, we're only planning on doing one section. If you look at the diagram, it's in 2 sections. If we do raise enough money, we'll put both sections up.
Okay, I'm going to ask for, are you looking for a vote to approve this, I'm assuming? Right,
I'm going to make a motion to approve for discussion only, because I have some questions.
okay, is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, I'm going to go to Mr. Dakotas first.
That looks like a good place for a barbecue after hours. Is that also possible for that, Mr. Cabral?
Oh, God. I don't think he can hear us.
We may need to, we may need to continue this.
Mr. Cabral, can you hear us?
I'm not sure if the committee can do what I just said.
Can,
I think we can hear each other, but they can't hear us.
No, we can.
we can,
They're talking, but we can't hear them.
Right.
Okay, so, all right, why don't you guys mute Manny? I'm going to try calling you once more. That seemed to work best. So, let's do that. If that doesn't work, we're going to need to continue this.
Hi, Jerry.
Hi, Manny. All
Okay,
right,
so I'm
so
muted
the
again.
question is, can Mike use it for barbecues, I guess?
You'd have to fill out a building use form.
Good answer. Anything, Mr. Dakotas?
No, thank you.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes. Will every classroom have an opportunity to use that classroom? Will they rotate, the use of it?
Manny,
Every classroom will have the opportunity to use it.
Okay.
We'll also use it during lunchtime.
Oh, okay, okay.
Manny, you need to turn off the volume on your computer so you're not getting so much feedback back to us.
And I had one more question. How about the expense, man? I know the cost, we won't bear the cost. It's the PTO that's raising the funds. but
No,
will
there's
we?
no cost to the district. This is a fundraiser, and it's being funded by the PTO.
Okay. That's all I have.
Mrs. Malish?
It's not in our backup anywhere that it's being funded by the PTO. We're you're just saying that it is, like, Lane, how did you know this was being funded by the PTO? I don't see anywhere that it says it's being.
Because I knew it.
In the backup.
It's in the backup.
Is it?
I believe.
Oh.
Because maybe I'm a crusader.
My backup's upside down.
I read it. I did read it. So.
Oh, okay. Now that was, I just didn't see that note. That was my only, it looks really nice though. That was my one question. Thanks, Manny.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Farnworth?
Can you help me understand the placement of this? I'm looking at these drawings. Is it just immediately behind the school, or will there, if there is a second area, will it be in a different spot? Could you help me understand that?
Yes, so it's going to be right outside the cafeteria doors.
Oh.
So when the students go outside to recess, there's a glass area where the picnic tables are now.
Oh,
So that's where the outside classroom will be. It's going to be between the 3rd and 4th grade pod and the kindergarten pod.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, I think it looks great, and you know, just as with the donation we accepted from the Shermans, I'm very grateful to the Ranger PTO. They're knocking it out of the park for their school,
Yeah,
and I
that's-
appreciate that.
Yeah, very much so. That's why I said I was looking to see who donated it, so that's fantastic.
Okay, Mr. Farley?
No comment other than that I think it's great that we can improve our students' education.
Okay. And any comment or questions from members of the public? They just told themselves a joke, I guess. All right. Maybe you are. You already are. Any questions or comments additionally from our administrators? Okay, I'm going to ask for a vote. Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
Mrs. Balish?
Yes, just making sure that we understand, just like we did with the last vote, that this is contingent upon the full cost of the funding being covered.
I think that's the nature of the motion, yeah. Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries. Thank you, Manny.
Thank you.
Sleep well.
You too.
I won't. All right. We are up to, lost my agenda. Item 5D, capital project up. 5C, school building maintenance of effort report. Ms. Roderick?
Thank you, Dr. Larkin. The committee asked me actually at the last meeting to present some information regarding the maintenance of effort that is required regarding maintenance of the buildings in order to maintain our eligibility for housing aid. And so what I have provided in your packet, and I do have a subsequent spreadsheet that I'll be sharing with you in a moment, this is the documentation that is provided to districts as guidance on how you can meet that maintenance of effort level. And you can do so in one of three ways. One is, the first, as you can see, 3% of the operating budget, although they graduated it in from FY19 to FY23. It could also be accomplished by reaching 3% of the replacement value of your buildings. In our case, I have absolutely no idea what the replacement values are for our buildings. That's something maintained by RIDE. So for us, and I would imagine that
It's well north of our operating budget.
it's right. And I would also imagine that we would have difficulty reaching that threshold. And then the third is $3 per square foot of building space, although that has been adjusted at this point up to $3.44 per square foot. So the easiest hurdle for us to achieve is the 3% of the operating budget. This is filed annually. When we submit our housing form, we actually have to sign off that we have met this threshold. Ally, if you could please bring up the worksheet that I provided you. The committee had asked me to show how we have achieved that goal, and I apologize for not providing it in the packet. But so we have our appropriations budget, which is the threshold. Even though our operating budget may be different because we have one-time monies, it goes by our appropriation. And you can see that in FY20, the threshold was 1% of our operating budget, which we met. FY21, it was 2%, and it continues to go to 2.5% and 3% for next year. So as of right now, we have we have our maintenance expenditures. One of the primary ones is the maintenance director's salary and benefits. Ally, could you go to the next slide for me, please? Next page. And so for FY21, these are all the expenses that add up to the $1.3 million that shows that we satisfy the requirement. Now, the biggest part of that is the interest on the bond payments. So for that $814,000 is eligible to be applied to that because we used the non-refinanced bond funds to improve the high school, I believe, and if I'm not mistaken, the elementary schools, if I believe that's correct. But I also provided all the object codes and what we expended in FY21 for that. And if Ally, if you could go to the next page, please. And again, here it's very, very similar for FY20, and we'll be following that same format for the current year for FY22.
Okay, I just have a quick question about that. So the bond interest is carried on the town's books, correct?
It is.
So, but that is allowed as part of the...
It is allowed
maintenance.
because that interest is being paid on school buildings.
Right, okay.
Yep.
That's certainly helpful in meeting that threshold.
It is.
And that $853,000, is that the interest on the most recent project for the two schools?
Everything, isn't it? We have a
Well, you
bunch of
mentioned what was not
So
refinanced.
there is one. There are 3 bonds that I'm aware of. One of which was a refinance of previous bonds. That is not eligible, but I believe it's Ranger and then the TMS, THS renovations. That's where that comes from.
Okay, thank you. Do you think you could forward us a copy of that information, please?
Absolutely.
And for FY22, I apologize for just taking over. When will that calculation be?
It's not due to the state until June 30th.
Okay.
So when, effectively when our books are roughly closed.
Oh, I'm sorry. My mind is a year ahead.
So
Sorry.
the current year, we're not done yet.
Yep.
Although we certainly will meet the threshold by virtue of the bond interest alone.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that it for your presentation? I'm just going to open up the floor to questions then.
That is,
Okay.
yep.
Mr. Chakottis?
No, I think I understand. I think you're right. I think it was Picasso, they rolled those bonds, right? That's what you were saying. Yeah. No, that's it. Thank you.
Mrs. Pava?
I have no questions.
Ms. Palish?
No questions.
And Ms. Farnworth, any other questions?
No additional questions. Thank you, Amy, for bringing
you.
that up.
Mr. Farley?
No questions.
Okay. I guess I just have one other question, which is, does the money that was allocated for the bathrooms, and that should go to this as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thanks. All right, thank you very much. Okay, we are up to item 5D, capital project update. Dr. Sanchioni?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And in your packet, I gave you an update on the, as you're aware, the town allocated to the schools $2 million for capital projects. Those capital projects were defined by you, which ones we could pursue, and I wanted to update you on where we are on that. If you're looking at the document, there's several projects that are already completed. We updated you earlier this year on these, so just to go in order. The siding at Ranger was completed. The dishwasher at TMS has been ordered. We've had some delays in obtaining that, but it is on order and will be installed shortly. Same thing with the steamer for the middle school. The 3 lawnmowers were purchased and have been used, and the intercom at the high school has been updated. We have some other projects, though, are starting and or will be completed that will round out this $2 million. The middle school bathrooms, we began that project over the April vacation. Again, I've given you some numbers there, what was allocated to it, what the bid amount was that came in, and the reimbursement that will be achieved from this project through RIDE. Tennis windscreens, you actually see a new windscreen out there right now. That was donated by the Boosters Club, but we are going to put another one on the back side of the tennis courts that will really take out the wind on both sides. That has been on order and certainly will be installed as soon as it comes in. Our stadium lights has been approved by RIDE. We received that approval on Monday. We've been in contact with the contractor. We've given them 2 options. A, finish the lights before graduation so that there's no construction vehicles around during that time, or wait till after graduation. So we're waiting to hear back on them on what they can accomplish. We'd love to see the lights installed. I think it'd be nice to show off at graduation. But again, we don't want to be in the middle of the project at graduation. So we'll get that. But you can see the amount and what the reimbursement is to RIDE. And then lastly, we're going out, or we're going to continue to work with our current contractor on adding in the 8 bathrooms at the high school. And again, we've had an estimated cost there and a projected RIDE reimbursement. So all projects right now are either beginning or have been completed. Again, we will be under the $2 million threshold. Again, with gratitude to the town council for allocating these funds. And again, I wanted to provide you with this update.
Okay, I'll open up the floor to questions. Mrs. Pavo?
I have nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Farnworth?
I do have just one question on the tennis windscreens, and honestly, I don't know if you can answer this or not. It's just curiosity on my part. Thank you for, first of all, explaining to us the breakdown between what the Boosters has donated, because I've seen that donation was made, and that, you know, they deserve full credit and gratitude. Once again, that's the theme tonight, for helping us accomplish that. So if I'm hearing this correctly, you're going to enclose the entire tennis court, basically, with these screens?
Not the entire, because again, we want to be able to allow our parents and our fans to watch some of the matches. So the side that faces the road would never be blocked off. The only screen we're going to put on now is on the back end, the fencing closest to the stadium.
Okay, and certainly I can understand, especially over the last week or so, where we've been living a perpetual hurricane here. But, you know, looking ahead to, let's say, you know, early June, when the temperatures go up to 80 plus, I wonder how warm it's going to be in there if the whole thing was enclosed. So thank you for explaining that to me. That's all I had.
Okay. Mr. Farley?
And no questions.
Okay, I don't have any questions. Any questions from our administrators?
Could I do have a question?
Yeah.
Oh, did I not?
And I do
No.
too. It's okay.
And so does Mike. Mike,
The bookends.
you can start
You go.
with Mike.
You
The
go
bookends.
first.
Oh.
You go
I
first.
didn't call on you guys?
Nope.
Oh, well, there you go. That's what you get. Ms. Palish?
Just a quick policy question. You said the Boosters donated the screens. Was that on an agenda anywhere? I just to formally accept their donation and thank them formally. I mean, because we've been doing everything else.
Right.
Was it at a meeting I missed, or?
Nope.
Just because we do like to, I mean, certainly we did now because we called them out, but let's just make sure that any donations going forward, because it is a great opportunity for us to make sure that people know
I think
how much support they give.
Exactly, and certainly we always want to be able to do that for you. I think what happened here is it came in unbeknownst to us, and we knew it was coming, we just didn't know when, and so we
Nope,
didn't
and
time
that's
the-
fine.
yeah.
Yep, that's fine. And I mean, I think we've all recognized it tonight, but I just, you know, again, you know, I don't think the public realizes how much, you know, our parents in our community step up over and over and over again. So thank you for that explanation.
And the same question, we should put it on the agenda for the next meeting to formally accept it. Is that it, Deb? Yep, thank you. Mr. Dakotas?
Yes, I would like to thank the town council again, like the superintendent said. Having that capital money was huge to do this, and we're getting it done, so that's great. Thank you for the update. Second, thanks to Mike Brigham and the Boosters Club. I drove in yesterday, I saw it, and it looks fantastic. I don't know if anyone from the huge crowd that's here watching wants to say anything, or the 20 people on YouTube, but anytime people want to make donations, we will take them. That's my stance. So thank you.
And Mr. Farley?
No, other than that, I've heard from the tennis team that they're very grateful for the protection from the wind, because, as you said, we've been living in a very windy town.
And any comments from our administrators?
It was quite a surprise for Mike Brigham, so the reason why we didn't put it on.
Run into the
we
same
didn't know-
issue.
Mrs.
Craven, we can't hear you, but it looks like you're saying something.
Really nice.
Yeah, I'll say it the next time.
I just,
He'll tell you. He'll tell us.
All right.
We'll definitely get our technology.
yeah, we know what the problem is. It's not fixable right now, but we at least know how to fix it.
All right, item 5E, portrait of a graduate, Dr. Sanchioni.
All right, so this gives me great pleasure. You may recall, we've been working on this since the beginning of the year, and I've given you a little memo to sort of explain where we were. I just want to read one part of it to you so you get the genesis of why we're doing this and the importance of it. Now more than ever, Tiverton's experience must not only provide for the acquisition of rigorous academic content, which we do, but it must be more intentional about fostering other key skills such as critical thinking, communication, habits of the mind that our students need to navigate and thrive in this complex, rapidly changing world. So we do the content, but we also have to have the right skills. And so I know all of you filled out that survey. There was many, many things on there. But what you want to do is you want to narrow it down to what Tiverton wants for its portrait of a graduate. So every student, every staff member, every school committee member, we send it to the budget committee, send it to the town council, to all the administrators at town hall, to the police department, the fire department, and we ask other important people in the town to give us their feedback, to let us know what they thought was their important characteristic that they'd like to see a graduate possess. What you're seeing here is the first iteration, or it's not an iteration, this is Tiverton's portrait of a graduate. And so these were the top 5: collaboration, communication, empathy, responsibility, and critical thinking. And so they're not just going to become words. These are important to us now. This is the course of direction that our school system is going to follow. And so it's incumbent upon us now to work with our staff and our administration to make sure that these 5 words show up in every classroom and every course that we deliver here in the Tiverton Public Schools. So truly, when a student graduates, they'll know and they'll be prepared with critical thinking. They'll understand what communication is and how to work with others, how to be responsible, what empathy is, how to think about others, and certainly collaboration. So I think these are tremendous skills. Certainly the other ones that were on the list don't get thrown out. We don't just stop doing those other things. They're all important, but this is what Tiverton said to us. This is the response we got. These are the 5 most important, and we're looking forward now to bringing these to fruition. So thank you for everyone who contributed and participated in this project. It took a long time to get us here. Thank you to Julie Delcourt for making that impressive graphic that's the road to graduation, which we're all after. So happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Open it up to the committee. Mr. Farley, let you go first.
No, I think it's great that we have a steadfast goal for our students, and that we can implement throughout the grades. That's all.
Mrs. Palish?
First, I just want to thank all of you and everyone that participated. That, I know this was a lot of work, and, you've been doing this for a while. One of the things I just have a comment that I want to note. We just had professional development for my profession today, and 4 of those words came up in our professional development and the professional development was around the virtual world. We're living in a brand new world. A lot of people work virtually. They work from home, and what kind of skills you need to do that adequately. And it's just interesting that 4 of those came up today. So I'm happy to see that we're preparing our students for whatever future they're going to have, including a virtual.
No doubt. If they possess
future.
these 5 skills at a high level, they're
Yep.
going to be well prepared for the world.
Yep.
Okay, Mrs. Pavo?
I have nothing.
Mrs. Farnworth?
I think these are all great choices, and I'm actually proud of Tiverton for picking these. And honestly, I can't think of any better ones. The question I do have, though, is were these runaway winners, or?
No, I think the 6th and 7th were right. Ms. Delcourt, do you recall? It was close.
It was all pretty close, yeah. Out of 2,781 different entries, including students, residents, et cetera, it was neck and neck. Yeah, there were a lot
Wow.
of pretty close people.
What were 6 and 7? No, I'm going to ask. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
I think they were partnered with critical thinking. So sometimes people will create their own, and they'll say something like, thinking critically.
Right.
So, yeah, so that would be, so that gets a point in critical thinking or anything.
And just, any one of these skills is something a student can use in their life in whatever path they choose once they leave Tiverton High School. And this applies 100% to all, which I think is fantastic. And they're all very important as well.
Actually, from memory now, I can tell you creativity was either 6 or 7. And that's certainly important. We won't drop it for sure, but that was one that was close.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Dakotas?
No, I would love to know what the other couple are, but we don't have to do that tonight. But I think the one that was on there that I looked at too was ethically. I think that was one of them.
Yeah, it was.
But I think some of these were on mine. I work for a private company. I'm wearing a wristband that they make for us. This one says, "Make it happen," strive for results, things like that. Do the right thing. So a lot of these speak, like Deb said, through private organizations. This is great. This helps students prepare for what they're getting into. So happy to see it.
Thank you.
Okay, any comments from our administrators, if you dare? Shake your heads no. That's good. All right. All right, thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Going to go to item 5G, accept donation from Tiverton Power Plant by our Tiverton Town Council. Mr. Dakotas?
So last night, I attended the town council meeting. I want to say thank you to the counselors from last night. We were graciously awarded $12,000 towards the softball field. We did discuss this a couple weeks ago. This time, in going back to the council, as a private citizen, as a resident, I asked that there basically be no strings attached. And the background of the whole story, which I emailed to all of you, was this was probably going to be a 2-year project, but we had labor, machines, everything at our disposal, and the thought was if we could do it now, this would stop us from coming back next year. So Mr. Mendes is here. I want to thank him. He did a lot for us. He worked with unnamed person that doesn't want to be named very closely. There were a lot of intricate details, like Mr. Murray and Mr. Mendes saying that we should use dig safe so we don't drive on the field, and gas lines. And so there was a lot of work. And in the end, I think we created something beautiful for the kids, but also for the community. And we already know that some community members have filed for building use permits and have got them for the fields. And there'll be a lot of softball there for 6-7 months a year. So tonight is just to ask to accept the $12,000 donation that came from the Tiverton Power Plant that was given to the town to use for civic appropriations. And I would ask that you accept that as a donation.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'm going to make a motion because, and I want to acknowledge once again the entire private group that raised the money for this through various means. I mean, certainly this was one option, but I know they went out and got private business donations, they got parent donations, they got donations from some of our reps and senators. So I want to make a motion to accept the $12,000 donation, additional donation from that private group that was acquired via the council to complete the field renovation.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I'll open up the floor to discussion. Mrs. Pavo?
I have nothing.
Mr. Dakotas?
Again, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that was involved. We have a beautiful product there that would have cost double to triple what it is. And hopefully in the future, for some more improvements, go back to the community and see if we could do some more. But thank you.
Mrs. Farnworth?
I think Mr. Dakota's put it well in his email to us. I don't have any additional questions.
Ms. Palish?
No questions.
Mr. Farley?
No questions, just a thank you to you and everybody involved in the project.
Okay, I'll call for a vote. Mrs. Palish?
Yes.
Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
Mr. Dakotas?
I'll just abstain.
And I'll vote yes. Motion passes 4-0.
4.
4-0-1, I guess.
yeah.
401.
So next is item H, form a group to discuss field use with Recreation Commission or refer to the policy subcommittee. So the background here is that the relationship between the Rec Commission and the schools has always been very collaborative, and I don't think there's been any problems, but it's been an informal arrangements whereby the field use is determined by the Rec Commission outside of school hours, given some of the questions that came up around the original donation to the private group for the completion of the softball field. I thought we needed to formalize that. And I had a discussion with Mr. Gilfillan, who's the chairman. I don't know if he's chairman of the Rec Commission. And before we make a motion, I just want to put it out to the committee about what their preference is. We thought there's probably two ways of going at this. One would be to refer it to the policy subcommittee to write policy to govern that relationship. The other choice would be to form a group of interested parties, including Mr. Gilfillan, the principal, athletic director. You know, we can sort of figure that out, to kind of study the issue and bring it back to the committee with a set of recommendations. So I'd like to hear people's thoughts about that, unless someone prefers to make a motion first to open the discussion.
I would like to make a motion to have the policy subcommittee
I'll second that.
be in charge of this.
Okay, so that motion has been made and seconded, so I'll open up to discussion. Mr. Dakotas?
So I think with my experience with different athletics and venues, gyms and fields, I don't think it's the worst idea to have recreation involved in some way with what we do. I know that there might be some different people coming in and out that will have some decisions to be made on this, on our side, and then, if down the road, Mr. Gilfillan is not the chair of the rec committee, I think the intention is good. I would like to further discuss that. The policy subcommittee can take that up, but I don't think it's the worst idea to open this up a little bit to see if we can house everything in the town in one place.
Okay, Mrs. Favo?
I made my motion,
Oh, yeah.
and I
Any
feel
comments
that
or?
it be the policy
So- okay,
subcommittee
great.
take care of this. I think it belongs in the schools.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any question about the
Well, I do think that there is a question.
well, there may be a question.
Oh, there wouldn't,
but-
this document wouldn't be in front of us.
Yeah, there may be a question. I think, what the answer is that we have care and custody of the schools. And so, and it's really just, my thought was to try and regularize the relationship so everybody is clear about what, I guess, the answer to the question is. Mrs. Palish?
I agree that it needs to be the policy subcommittee, only because if you look at our current policy, our policy covers not only the fields, not only recreation, but the buildings as well. There are a lot of things that the buildings and the fields get used for beyond recreation. For instance, there are fairs that have been held. I don't think anyone, I think a lot of us remember the cow plop. The cow plop bingo, hey. So I think there are a lot of organizations, community organizations. I think there are a lot of nonprofit organizations that we sort of coordinate for use of the fields and the buildings, and it's not just limited to sports or recreation. So that's kind of why I feel it needs to be the policy subcommittee. I don't know if people realize, but I did a little bit of research because I was coming up to speed, that the Pecasset fields and the Fort Barton fields by ordinance, by town ordinance, are under Recreation Commission, but nothing else is. I went and asked someone who's lived here forever why that is, and she said that she believed it's because when they wrote that ordinance, they were looking to have more open space north of Bulgamarsh, or open space north of Bulgamarsh. There was a lot of open space south, and so they picked those two locations. So be that as it, but so there is a reason that the rec controls those two pieces of recreation area, and that's because there's an ordinance. But as far as the rest of the fields and the buildings in our policy, we kind of control that because it's schools, first of all. They're always first schools. But then, like I said, our policy's pretty broad. I mean, we've let people from the library held a fair. We've had touch-a-trucks. We've had, matter of fact, all winter, the Tiverton Farmers Market has been using the gymnasium. So I think it needs to stay with the policy subcommittee, and certainly willing to hear what the Rec Commission has to say or how they would like to be included in that policy. But like I said, I think our policy goes beyond just that narrow definition of how we're using buildings and fields. So I think it belongs with the policy subcommittee for those reasons.
Okay, Mrs. Farnworth?
I agree that this does belong with the policy subcommittee, and to your point earlier, that the school committee, school department exercises care and control of the properties, and that's inside and out. I think my bigger question is here. I know, Dr. Larkin, you sent us an email late today on this topic, and I don't really see a request from the Recreation Committee to do anything here. So I'm not sure if there is a problem. None's been communicated to us, so I'm not sure why we're even trying to get ahead of something that may not even be a formal request.
It's my request.
Okay.
That we try and regularize this relationship, which is, as far as I could understand from, similar to Mrs. Palish, trying to sort of figure out, well, how does the Rec Commission articulate with the schools. And it seemed to be a very informal, granted relationship that worked, but my concern about the original allocation of the town council of the power plant money to the group that was renovating the softball field or building the softball field was that they had put a stipulation on that, which is essentially creating policy. And I said, well, no, we should really be the body that creates policy. So that was the complete genesis of this.
So, just so I can, so Mr. Gilfillan isn't complaining that we're not cooperating and that
No,
we're not
not at all.
collaborative and that, because I was going to say, because I have heard no complaints over our policy and
No,
application of
there's
it.
no
Okay.
complaint from Mr. Gilfillan or from the Rec Commission. The issue was, there did not seem to be policy that necessarily governed, or maybe there is. You may go back and review the buildings use policy and say, well, this is fine.
It's very broad. It says basically nonprofits, which would include them.
Right, but do they have particular or special status being a town? Okay, I'm just saying.
They don't now.
It needs, right, exactly. So again, the relationship is informal. It seems to be working, but when questions like this come up, it makes you realize that the relationship needs to be regularized a little bit. That's my point.
Or we can review the policy to see if it in fact does cover adequately.
Yeah, that you may come back and say that.
Okay.
And that's why I brought it up as these two possibilities. You could sort of get together a group of stakeholders and say, this is what we want the policy to say, now go write the policy. Or you could say, we'll look at the policy, we'll bring it back. I would encourage that you contact Mr. Gilfillan and involve him in those discussions.
Well, and for anyone, just as a point of information, any group that wants to, our policy
Right.
subcommittee meetings are open to the public and posted.
Right. And so again, there are different groups who are looking for different needs, and one of the hallmarks of the policy as it is written now is that we encourage that. We welcome the community into the buildings. We don't charge, which is different from some districts. But at the same time, we have the responsibility for the use, and so we have to make sure it's done appropriately. So the motion right now is did I call on Mr. Farley? Do you have anything to say?
I would just make sure that the Rec Commission and any bodies that, even if any bodies that may be have interest in using the schools, be contacted and asked for their input on the policy. Obviously, if it's too much of a hassle to contact them, then, but like, for example, the Tiverton Farmers Market, you might want to say, hey, what's your input? Because as you mentioned, they'd been using the gymnasium for all the winter.
Okay, so motion's been made and seconded. I'll ask for a vote. Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
Mrs. Palish?
Yes.
Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Policy Subcommittee is going to be a little bit busy.
Yep.
All right, nothing under old business. We have future meetings on May 24th. We will review the FY23 budget, and the website update are on the agenda right now. Meeting on June 4th. We have the financial town referendum. That's not a meeting, on May 21st. We had the financial town meeting on May something, 4th, 5th? 5th. Was it Thursday?
Dr.
5th.
Larkin?
It was a lot of fun. Mr. Dakotas?
Just a point, I won't be able to join you on the 24th, at 7 o'clock, the spring concert for the middle school is being held here. and my daughter is singing in there. So
Okay.
that'll be my 1A. If that ends in time, I will walk right over across the hallway here.
Okay. Anything else about upcoming meetings? All right, so I'm going to ask for a motion to move into executive session under Rhode Island General Law 42465A1, job performance, character, physical or mental health, superintendent, goals evaluation, and Rhode Island General Law 42465A2, legal advice, litigation, contract for administrator, director of technology.
So moved.
Second.
I'll ask for a vote. Mrs. Palish?
Yes.
Mrs. Farnworth?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavo?
Yes.
Mr. Dakotas?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so we're in executive session.